Welcome to Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer, and we are on page 244. We are talking about anger. I hope you guys are getting stronger and stronger in your mastery of anger. This is the most powerful thing. I don't know, in the last 2 weeks, I'm hoping that you had this huge shift in closeness in your home life from this work. It is so powerful. And the thing you can know is that Hashem himself, God himself, is watching you and smiling and bringing bracha into your home for the work that you're doing on here. Even when you make mistakes, even when you try and you fail, he's so proud of you, and so am I. Okay, fine. Okay, we're on page 244, chapter 10 in Marriage Secrets. Anger triggers. I have found my students surprisingly unaware of their own anger issues. While many women speak to me with great clarity about their husband's anger problems, when I ask them about what their anger triggers are, they aren't even sure what I mean. They know that they get mad, but they haven't a clue what their anger patterns are or how their own moods affect their anger coping skills. It's a bit like driving a car blindfolded, kind of challenging to avoid the obstacles when you can't see them. So the first order of business is to turn yourself into a bird. Fly up into the opposite corner of the room and watch yourself. Practice watching yourself from the bird's eye view, and you will go a long way to repairing all of the anger issues in your marriage. This bird's eye view tool will help put the power back into your own hands. As you watch yourself, try to figure out what makes you tick. Do you get frazzled and lash out when demands are piling up on you in quick succession? Are you particularly sensitive when people criticize you for no good reason? Do you mimic your parents' way of dealing with stress without ever considering if it's a constructive method or not? If you watch closely, patterns will emerge that can help you to understand yourself better and will help you to figure out alternate ways to get your needs met without letting your anger overwhelm you. The more you understand about how you currently handle your angry feelings, the better you will be able to chart a path to handling them more productively. Examine your anger flare-ups. Try to figure out what sets you off, what triggers your feelings, and what your thought processes are. Consider making a journal to track your reaction to things and to make notes about what you felt and how you reacted. Obviously, speaking to a professional can speed up this process, but the main objective is to analyze and assess your anger patterns so we can work at improving them and learn to curtail any outbursts. Know your patterns. Feeling angry is normal. The problem is when we act angry by yelling, criticizing, snapping, or taking out our frustrations on others. Get to know yourself better. Are you the type that flies off the handle at the drop of a hat? Do you find it irresistible to lash out in anger when someone is berating you? The Gemara tells us that the world exists in the merit of one who keeps quiet during an argument. Ben Zoma says, "Who is strong? He who subdues his evil inclination, as it is stated. He who is slow to anger is better than a strong man, and he who masters his passions is better than one who conquers a city." King Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived, gives us an incredible insight and recipe for healing. Remove anger from your heart and thus remove pain from your body. Such high praise is very inspiring. Here we have foolproof method of how to come closer to God, as well as how to take care of our husband at the same time. I was taught to drive by an elderly lady who shouted at practically every driver on the road, blessedly with the windows closed so no one heard her. For years, that's how I thought you drove, yelling at everyone as you went along. When I recognized how aggravating and stressful driving was for me, I realized that the source was my anger flare-ups. To overcome this ingrained habit, I began to imagine a toddler in the back seat and what kind of mother I would need to be to train her to be a mensch. It was a formidable challenge to get over this deeply entrenched routine, but I conquered it over time, Baruch Hashem. Steady progress through effort. And throughout the years, I was pretty decent about not raising my voice at my kids too often. This was certainly not a natural outcome of my sweet disposition. Growing up, my observation about life was that it seemed that the louder you yelled, the more power you had. To top that off, an acerbic wit was praised, no matter at whose expense. So when I got angry, I could really let it rip. This led everyone around me to admiringly recommend that I go for a career as a district attorney. Hardly a worthy Meta character trait for being a loving wife. The secret to overcoming our anger habits is to start by examining our anger feelings. We need to figure out what anger triggers are, to do some soul searching to discover our past patterns of how we deal with anger, and to learn how to recognize in the moment why we are feeling angry. Once we do this internal work to help us gain clarity, then we can much more easily control how we act when we are angry. This is what God desires of us. If it is helpful to get yourself motivated to work on this, remember that erupting in anger requires a person to do tshuva for every single incident of anger that one shows. If we keep this in mind at all times, it will hopefully strengthen our determination right when we need it the most. The point is to be less at the effect of our emotions and more in control of how you would choose to behave. Self-mastery over anger takes time, but by using the bird's eye view tool to monitor ourselves, we can truly gain self-control and power over this emotion. So every time you feel the anger begin to course in your veins, fly up in the air and scrutinize yourself. Learn, understand, and take control. Okay, ladies, I hope we're growing. We're all growing, myself included. Rereading this, I'm like, ooh, I've got some work to do. We all have work to do. Let's see what questions we got. What do you got for me, Gila?
Okay, so Goldie's already on it, and she's asking, when I try to talk softly, my husband tells me I sound like his grandmother. I'm trying to take tips on board, but it seems to bother my husband.
Hey, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's the end
That's
of her
the
question?
question.
Okay.
She flipped the coin.
Is what?
I said she flipped the coin.
What do you mean she turned? What?
I'm saying maybe she was spicy before and now she's soft. And her
Oh, I see
husband
what you're
thinks
saying. Right. So
she's
the first question is, I would ask them, what's wrong with your grandmother? What's wrong with you? You don't like your grandmother? You didn't like your grandmother? And if he's like, if he's like, no, I didn't, then okay, you got an issue. If he says, oh, no, I did like her, say, good, well, I'm going to be more like her. If he didn't like his grandmother, he's like, oh, she was, it never, she didn't, I didn't feel like she was real, or she wasn't emotional, or she was always putting on airs. Who knows why he says that? So fine, he doesn't like his grandmother. So say, I don't know what to do. I want to grow in this. Why? Why do I want to grow in this? Not to become a millionaire, although maybe it helps you become a millionaire. I don't know. With blessing, it could be blessing. But yeah, I'm the reason I'm doing this, dear husband, is to take as best care of you as I possibly humanly can. So I get it. Maybe it's annoying. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. The reason I don't know how to do this because I've never done it. I spent my whole lifetime just letting my anger out. So I'm working it out. Tell me what tone you want me to use and take the problem and hand it to your husband and say, how should I say it? How do you want me to become? I'll try. That's all you can do, but hopefully he'll understand how ridiculous it is. You're growing on something that is the biggest beneficiary to that besides yourself is him. And, he shouldn't be giving you a hard time about it. And you can tell him that why are you giving me a hard time about this? I'm trying to do something for you. Maybe I'm failing at it, but I'm trying. You should be so thrilled that your wife is working so hard to make you happy. Okay, good. What's next?
okay. So Layla says, I know I yell a lot because that's what my mother used to do. How do I break this cycle?
Good. Okay. Wow. Good for you that's called introspection and that's called owning what, owning your anger trigger and your anger pattern. Um, I think the first thing, yeah, first of all, when we recognize something like this in ourselves and you're listening to a share about this, you're on the show, you're really working on this or whatever, and you should be very proud of yourself, whatever. It's really remarkable how understanding the devastating effects of yelling, how powerful that is in stopping you from yelling. Recognizing that what anger does and the bad side effects of anger is one of those powerful things you can do because then almost like your anger lessons because before you just shouted and like, well, everyone now I screamed my head off and they cleaned the whole house. But now you realize, oh, they cleaned the whole house, but now they're all mad at me. Everybody's in a bad mood. There's a lot of tension in the house. People don't feel safe. I feel a little regretful because I screamed a little bit louder than I wanted to because I had a bad day at work. And so I took it out on my kids. My self-esteem is lower, and when you start looking at all these ramifications, next time you're about to say the house is a mess and you're walking, you're about to say, that's right. You go, guys, I'm going to give you half an hour, and everybody who helps clean up gets one of the chocolate covered ice cream cones from the fridge, and from the freezer. Yeah, whatever. It works mysteriously, like just getting it, just acknowledging it, getting it, opening your eyes to the damage that anger causes is one of the most powerful things. So hopefully that'll stand you in good stead as you go forward on it, and you can break out of this pattern that you have from your mom. The other thing is, it could be that if you speak with your husband and you say, I want you to know something. I realized I learned anger management from my mom, and she wasn't really good at it. You have to be a little bit careful about lashon hara, about speaking ill, gossip about your mother-in-law, but his mother-in-law. But on the same token, if it's toelis, if you're telling him to help you, there are certain allowances. So I'm being very careful about lashon hara, about gossip about your mom. But you could say, the way I grew up, I learned to to express anger this way, and I'm really, really working on it, and I could use your support like that. You could say it like that, maybe. If it was, I did get a psak from a Rav. Somebody had abusive parent, and they didn't tell their husband because they didn't want to speak ill of whatever, but they did get a psak that said that they could share certain things for the husband to understand her better. And that was just for that specific case. Don't make a broad generalization. These are questions that you need to ask to LOR, your local Orthodox rabbi, to find out, what is permissible to say, what's not permissible to say, what you don't need to say, obviously don't. But if you feel that your husband needs to know certain things that would help him to support you in growing in the way you want it, and specifically to anger or other character traits, certain things are allowable to say. So you need to find that out. Okay, good. What's the next question?
Okay, so Gail asks, I'm quite an extreme person, and I tend to either yell or give the silent treatment. Your show is really helping me. Could you tell me what I should work on first?
Whoa, yay! Good on you, Gail. Very good idea. I mean, good work, and you should feel very proud of yourself.
I could hear how if she's explosive and then she wants to quiet it down, but she needs somewhere to put her anger, she goes into silence.
Right.
But that's also not healthy.
Well, there's a difference between the silent treatment and silence. Silence is definitely healthy, and that's definitely where she should go, is silence. Much, much, much better. Zipping is, duct tape. Oops. Duct tape, that's a good thing. Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman said that the strength of the power, I'm going to quote it wrong, but I'll get the general idea, that the strength in the power of speech is the power to remain silent. Okay. So silent is good. You should be proud of yourself to be silent. That is something to be lauded and to look up to, and to work towards being silent when you're going to just have an outburst. However, it's very, very different than the silent treatment. The silent treatment is a weapon a person pulls out. Their husband says something, they don't like it. Their husband's pushing them on something, or he said something that was upsetting or mean or unkind, or he didn't do something the wife wanted him to do, so she gives him the silent treatment. So I'll tell you how much silent treatment you can give your husband in the course over 120 years. Zero. Now, you can say, I'm a slow processor, if you are, or whatever, or I need to process this. I need to think about this. I need 3 hours to just really, I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling like if I talk now, I'm going to say mean things, or I'm going to, let things out, or I'm going to say things I don't mean. And I really need to process this. You have to understand, husband, I am not giving you the silent treatment. I'm not giving it to you. I'm using this time to think. It's productive. I will still make your dinner. I will still answer the door if someone rings it, instead of saying, you get it, because I'm not participating with you. I'm checked, still keep all of your habits and all of the structure that keeps and the stability and the routines that make a house a home. Still do all of that. Still be loving, still take care of him. That you can be silent and you can couch an issue without giving the silent treatment. You should never, ever, ever be giving the silent treatment. And if you're one of those people who, oh, really? Yikes. I never realized that. I mean, I give the silent treatment several times a week when my husband doesn't do what I want, or when, he doesn't understand me, or I feel like he's not listening to me. I give him the silent treatment all the time. And then we make up and it's fine. That 3 days of our life that I've thrown in the trash, it's fine. No, it's not fine. It's not fine. So if you're the kind of person who's always been giving the silent treatment, even ever giving the silent treatment, you need to work on this. And the way out of it is to just share and say, I need space. I'm not punishing you. I'm not torturing you. I'm not trying to push you away from my life. I just need time to think. And is there something I can do for you? Would you like me to make you some tea right now? Would you like me to, help you straighten your room, whatever. It's whatever. In other words, still the actions with your fingers still take care of him, whatever those are. Still take care of your husband, and you can be silent and still take care of him. And that's the name of the game here. Work on it. We all have, we're on a ladder going hopefully up. Okay, what you got for me, Gila?
Okay. Bella asks, is there something wrong with me that I quite enjoy getting angry? Maybe the adrenaline rush. I don't know.
So just PS newsflash, everyone enjoys getting angry. It's a rush of power. They're like, oh, what did you do? And whatever. And it's almost like forgiven because they know that you've been taken over by an alien and you're just like, whatever, right? So the pleasure that we derive from that, right? It's the Yetzer Hara's pleasure. It's the controlling, the torturing other people, who have nowhere to go if there are children, and if there are husband or whatever, he's not, he's kind of has to take it, which is horrible. Just, it's horrible. So the counterbalance to that is the depth of understanding of how it pushes your husband away, how it pushes everybody away. So while you're enjoying and you can't believe what you did, and while you're in the middle of the tirade, if you suddenly were to think about, like our Chazal said, like if you were thinking about that you have your purse is sitting on the counter, and while you're screaming, a goblin is coming. Are there such a thing as goblins? He's opening your purse and he's opening your wallet and he's taking all the money out and throwing it in the garbage disposal. If you think about the fact that, you're sitting there and that day you've been like, you finally, you saved up, you're going to buy a new couch and you're so excited and you're flipping through, or you're online, you're whatever, you're shopping for a couch, or you went to this one and now you're deciding between these two couches. And as you're screaming, you realize that someone's taking the couch, both couches. Now you don't have a couch, because even though you have the $700 in the bank, or the 1,200, I don't know, how much is a couch? I don't know, whatever you've got in the bank, that somehow your car is going to get a flat tire. All four tires are going to pop at the same time over glass, and you're going to have to buy four new tires. And even though whatever, that money's going to go to that. I'm making up all this stuff, but this is visualizing what's actually in the spiritual world and in the physical world happening. That as you're spouting this anger, as the anger and the venom is rising and you're expressing it, right? Because again, we're all going to feel it potentially, maybe you work on yourself so much you don't feel it anymore, but you're feeling it isn't the problem. The problem is expressing it and taking it out on others. And if you, at that time, you can visualize money being pulled out of your pocket, besides spiritual growth and besides your place in Olam Haba, closer or farther from Hashem, and aside from your closeness to your kids, are they going to call you every Erev Shabbos to wish you a good Shabbos? All of these things play into it. And when you're angry and you're taking it out, whatever pleasure you might be having on it, if you balance it by what the cost is, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm making this a priority in my life. Okay. Do we have time for any more? Or I have to give the homework.
We have time for one more question.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
That was pretty heavy what I said.
Yeah.
I've been clunk, right? I hope
Right.
that goes clunk so that you can read. I'm telling you that so you'll have physic, you'll to strengthen you so that you will be able to withstand the pull that having an anger outburst when it comes upon you. You'll have the strength to withstand, withhold, not do it. Okay, go ahead. Go
That's the
ahead.
word.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Sarah says, I find it hard to admit ownership as I can always find a reason why someone else had made me angry, especially my husband. So, how can I introspect if I'm always finding reasons for my anger? I feel like that's a great question.
Right, right. Great question, and welcome to the club. You know what? Hello. You know, we're all in that similar boat. Yeah, very, very good. So, first of all, I'm proud of you for like being willing to own that up, and I have to tell you that it's a sign that you're a smart lady. You know, you're very quick to figure out, oh, wait, you know, like that. So, totally with you. Um, yeah, yeah, very much. The ability to pinpoint exactly what they did and how they did it. And usually a lot of things are other people's fault. Like, in other words, you know, even if it's not fully their fault, let's say it's 50-50 or it's 30-70, or, you know, at some point, you know, there is what to find out there. And I talk a lot about how a woman is a great prosecuting attorney. Like, in other words, if you spend a day with a man, right, your husband, right, you spend a day with him and he squeezed the toothpaste from the middle in the bathroom in the morning. Then he went in, he made coffee, he spilled coffee grounds all over the counter. He didn't clean them. Then he opened the fridge and he didn't push it all the way. So it's there for like 3 hours, half open, and everything in there is kind of lukewarm. And you're like, is the meat okay? And you know, whatever. Okay. If you, as a prosecuting attorney, spent the day with a man, with your husband, right? By the end of the day, you could come up with 50 things that, ah, you know, this is living under the same roof with somebody. Okay. That's just the way life is. Ain't nobody perfect. And if you're a prosecuting attorney, you're going to win the case. Okay. You have enough evidence to throw them in jail. However, if instead of being the prosecuting attorney, you were the defending attorney, the defending angel, okay? And you saw he squeezed the tube from the bottom of the paste, but then he put a new toilet paper roll in, and you know, there was water all over the floor, and he took a towel and wiped it so you wouldn't slip when you came in. And then, you know, he came out of the room and he saw that all the lights were on, that the kids had left all the lights, and he went and shut them all off. What you didn't see that he took care of you in that way by saving the electric bill and whatever. You know, if you walked around and witnessed everything he did that was good, just the fact that he woke up and says, "Hey, how you doing?" He didn't wake up and say, "Why'd you wake up? You know, you woke me up. You made something. You know, whatever." Like, you could gather so many facts about how he's a wonderful person. But that's not what women do. Okay. That's not what people do. They pick all, you know, we're really, really good at critical thinking. And here, with this question that you asked, is a prime example of it. You are really, really good of collecting evidence of why everybody else is to blame and why you are less to blame or not to blame at all. And what you have to understand is that from a sense of mastery or a sense of personal growth, if you are blaming other people, there's no growth available to you. You're kind of disempowered in that way. You can't grow. Whereas if you look at, okay, 99% of it was their fault, that they are to blame for, but the 1% was me, is I triggered them. Or 1% of me is you know, I could see why they got so upset because I told them I would leave the book on the counter for them to read, and I didn't leave it on the counter. So when they blew up and whatever, okay, you know, they blew up way disproportionate for the crime of me not leaving it on the counter, but I didn't leave it on the counter. So I'm going to try and, you know, next time, instead of saying I will leave it on the counter, I will say I'm going to try my best to leave it on the counter. You know, I'm making stuff up, but I'm just saying that when a person spends their life looking at what they can do better without beating themselves up, okay, but sometimes you have to beat yourself up. That motivates you to grow. But if a person is spending their life looking internally at what they can do to be a better person, that's where internal growth comes from, and that's where closeness. Because the minute you're blaming somebody, you're pushing them away. So that's the take-home message. Not so easy. Again, start little, small steps, baby steps to grow yourself into that kind of person. But always, if you find yourself blaming, start putting the, what is this? If you pointing the finger at somebody else, you've got three fingers pointing towards yourself. So it's kind of like just look towards yourself. That's the take home message. Not so eaten. That's not an overnight change. It's just a perspective change. And if you work on that, Mirat Hashem, you will grow to be able to grow as a person and to be closer to them, especially your husband. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Let me give you the homework. The homework is one time this week to have clarity on, to take responsibility for what's going on, out there. It looks like it's everybody else and they're bothering you and he's upsetting you and whatever, especially with your husband, something that's going on. Take accountability for it and look for what you can shift, what you might have done and what you can shift. Okay, very intense, deep homework, but that's what we're here for, is to grow and to fulfill our shleimus and maximize our potential on this earth and be the best people we can be. That's what we're working on. Thank you for joining me. This is Leah Richheimer. We'll see you next time. If you want more, we have so much more. If you want to learn our Masorah and have an awesome marriage, the first thing we have is a coaching program. If you are awesome with people and you want to know the Masorah better than 99% of the people on the planet Earth, like for reals, okay? It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We have major scholarships and we have somebody who's granted in a lot to pay for a big bulk of it. It's still a little expensive, but for what you get, and then you can start charging money to know it. That's the coaching program. Don't miss it. Go to www.ladiestalkshow.com. We do retreats. We do all kinds of stuff. You'll find it there. www.ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks for being with us. Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.